He was quiet and small, at least in posture. In reality, he was quite average-sized, maybe even tall, but he carried himself like the world was pressing down on him. He had his own gravity, and it seemed that it was heavier than everybody else's. He contorted his body to accommodate the weight. His shoulders lurched forward, and his broad chest became a cavernous outcropping, covering his lower half. He was the kind of person that was always there, even if it was just in the background. He had no friends, but everyone knew him. You could ask anyone and they would tell you he really was a nice guy. The town we lived in was small, the kind of small where any one person could be three things to you. In all likelihood, you lived next to your elementary school teacher, who was also the owner of the ice cream stand, and played bridge with your mom on Sundays. We had missed the construction boom when they had mapped out the roadways of America. As a result, we bordered but never touched the intersecting network of highways. In a lot of ways, we were frozen in time, a languished ghost town that continued to live simply because there was nothing else to do. The murders happened suddenly, and we were unequipped to handle them. It was afternoon in early May when the first body was discovered. Jamie Parks found her while he was playing in the woods. She was sliced into neat, precise pieces, like someone had taken great care when cutting her up. She was arranged in the clearing, not anatomically. She looked like a toy that had been disassembled by a child and not put back together quite right. There was a loud humming noise coming from underneath her. It crescendoed, getting louder and louder until it felt like the earth itself was shaking from it. He didn't see the first cicada wriggle its way out of her flesh, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Within seconds, thousands of fat larval bugs the size of a baby's fist swarmed the air. They beat their wings against his chest and face as he tried desperately to cover himself. He opened his mouth to scream, but the sound was drowned out by the mechanical wail of the cicada's song. He felt a segmented wing scrape the inside of his cheek. He ran. There were still bugs clawing at his hair when he got back to town, and it took the police hours to coax the story from him. Everyone was horrified. Murders didn't happen here. They identified the victim as Amy Perkins, a girl I had sold lemonade with when we were in second grade. People brought casseroles to her mother and sent cards with messages like, "I'm sorry for your loss," and "It will be alright." They were wrong. Within weeks, 2 more bodies were found, both in the woods and both hacked into neat and precious pieces. People stopped leaving their houses, and the town imposed a curfew, but that didn't stop it. The bodies continued to pile up, and the killer began to get more creative, more elaborate. Some people suggested notifying the state authorities, but none of them were serious. Truth was, we had spent so much time in isolation, I don't think we knew how to be a part of the outside world, even if we had wanted to. We were scared, but people in small towns have a funny way of getting used to things. Eventually, life resumes. The diner was empty, but it didn't occur to me to close early. I busied myself filling ketchup bottles and sugar shakers and cleaning the same spot with the same rag. Dusk crept in, and natural sunlight was replaced with artificial fluorescent bulbs. I closed the diner and locked the door behind me. The parking lot was bathed in the neon light of the closed sign. It flashed a slow, methodic rhythm, twisting sinister shapes in the darkness. I thought I saw a shadow at the edge of the parking lot, a hunched figure watching me from where the concrete met the woods. I kept looking over my shoulder, but I could only ever see it out of the corner of my eye. I wasn't even sure it was there, but I also couldn't be positive that it wasn't getting closer. I picked up my pace. It was now very dark, It had become impossible to distinguish the shadow. Everything blurred into a black viscous pitch. I started running, hoping it was the right way. I listened and tried to hear any sound that wasn't my own labored breathing and my pulse throbbing in my ears. All I could make out was a faint rustling that was growing into confident, heavy footsteps, 20 feet, 15 feet, 10 feet behind me, threatening to overtake me. Then a voice. A familiar voice. A quiet voice. He asked me why I was running, and he offered to walk me home. He said that he knew a shortcut, so I followed him. After all, he was really a nice guy.